When I did Rocky, if you remember, the first image was a picture of Jesus, and it says Resurrection AC Club. I found a church that had been converted to a boxing ring. So the image pans down from Jesus onto Rocky being hit. And at that moment, he was a chosen person, and that's how I began the journey. Something was going to happen. This man was going to go through a metamorphosis and change lives, just like President Trump. We are in the presence of a really mythical character. I love mythology. And this individual does not exist on this planet. Nobody in the world could have pulled off what he pulled off, so I'm in awe.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and let me ask you something. What comes to mind when you think about Rocky Balboa? For a lot of us, Rocky is the ultimate underdog, the guy who gets knocked down but keeps getting back up. He's the fighter who takes on the impossible odds and wins, not just for himself, but for all of us who feel like we're always climbing uphill. Now imagine Sylvester Stallone, Rocky himself, standing on a stage at Mar-a-Lago, of all places, comparing Donald Trump to George Washington.
When George Washington defended his country, he had no idea that he was going to change the world. Because without him, you can imagine what the world would look like. Guess what? We got the second George Washington. Congratulations!
I mean, think about that. Stallone called Trump a mythical figure. Even went so far as to say, we've got the second George Washington. And if that's not bizarre enough, this whole thing was wrapped in patriotic music, awkward pauses, and a performance that felt more like over-the-top Hollywood production than real life. So now we're left with this question. What's happening here? Has Stallone hijacked the very essence of Rocky and handed it over to Donald Trump? And where does that leave us as fans? Do we still watch Rocky movies and cheer for the underdog? Or does Stallone's performance at Mar-a-Lago taint everything? Do we burn the t-shirts, or worse, start wearing them with MAGA hats and talking like, "Lo, yo, Rocky"? It's a real dilemma because the manipulation messes with our emotions, our values, and the way that we see our heroes. On the other hand, let's talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's another Hollywood legend, another icon of strength, another hero in his own right. But Arnold has taken a very different path.
President Trump sought to overturn the results of an election, and of a fair election. He sought a coup by misleading people with lies. President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever.
When the Capitol was attacked on January the 6th, Arnold didn't hold back. He called Trump the worst president ever. He compared the Capitol rioters to Nazis, and he wasn't doing it for shock value. He was telling the truth, plain and simple.
But the mob did not just shatter the windows of the Capitol. They shattered the ideals we took for granted. They did not just break down the doors of the building that housed the American democracy. They trampled the very principles on which our country was founded.
And that's where the contrast really hits. Stallone's speech at Mar-a-Lago was a love letter to the myth of Trump, a carefully crafted narrative designed to make people feel good, to keep them loyal. Arnold, on the other hand, broke through the noise and said enough is enough. He wasn't selling a fantasy, he was confronting reality. And that takes guts, because let's be honest, it's a lot easier to go along with a lie than it is to stand up for the truth. Now, this isn't just about two Hollywood stars. This is about something much bigger. It's about how myths and lies have taken hold of so many people in this country. Stallone's speech wasn't just a moment of bad judgment. It was a textbook example of cult-like manipulation. And Trump's movement, it's built on the same playbook that cult leaders have used for generations. Let me break it down for you guys. Cult leaders thrive on creating myths. They elevate themselves into larger-than-life figures, making their followers believe they're saviors, chosen ones. That's exactly what Stallone was doing for Trump, turning him into a hero who could do no wrong. But it's not just Stallone. Trump himself is the master of this game. His whole persona is designed to make you think that he's your only hope, the only one who can save you. And the sad part is, millions of Americans have bought into it. Why? Because it works. These tactics have been used to brainwash people for decades. And here's how it happens. First, there's an isolation. Cult leaders tell their followers to cut off anyone who doesn't agree with them. Trump does the same thing. He calls the media fake news. He tells his supporters not to trust anyone who criticizes him. Over time, they stop listening to other perspectives. They live in an echo chamber where only Trump's voice gets through. Then there's gaslighting. Cult leaders make you question your own reality. They tell you that what you see and hear isn't true. Trump does this constantly. He says the election was stolen, even though there's no evidence. He says he's the most successful president ever, even when the facts show otherwise. And after hearing this over and over again, his followers start to believe it. They start doubting their own judgment and trusting him absolutely complete. And let's not forget the reward and punishment system. Cults use this to control behavior, and Trump's movement is no different. If you're loyal to Trump, you're praised. You're a patriot. If you question him, you're a traitor. This creates fear, it creates dependency, and it keeps people in line. But here's the part that really hits home. This isn't just about the people who buy into the myth. It's about the people who are too scared to speak out. Standing up for the truth isn't easy, especially when you're surrounded by people who don't want to hear it. It's risky. You could lose friends, family, even your job. But here's the thing. If we don't stand up, the lies win. And that's why what Arnold Schwarzenegger said matters so much. When he reminded us that patriotism means to stand by the country, it does not mean to stand by the president. He was cutting to the heart of the issue. Patriotism isn't about blind loyalty. It's about accountability. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Now let me tell you something personal. Take it from me. I spent 24 years in the United States military. I fought for this country, for teachers, for unions, for people who've been left behind. I've seen what bad leadership looks like. I've seen how manipulation and misinformation can destroy communities. I've seen people get brainwashed into thinking they're experts on issues they barely understand. And I've seen how dangerous it can be when nobody stands up to challenge the lies. But I've also seen what real leadership looks like. Real leadership isn't about standing on a stage and making yourself look good. It's about being in the trenches with your people. It's about taking care of the sick, the elderly, the veterans, the coal miners, the teachers. It's about lifting up the working class and making sure no one gets left behind. So here's where we are. On one side, you have Stallone feeding into the myth, playing into the cult-like loyalty that keeps people stuck in the lie. On the other side, you have Schwarzenegger, speaking truth to power, demanding accountability, and in the middle, you have us, the people who have to decide which story we're going to believe. Are we going to let ourselves be manipulated, or are we going to fight back? Are we going to buy into the comforting lies, or are we going to stand up for the uncomfortable truth? That's the choice that we have to make. And it's not just about Trump or Stallone or Schwarzenegger. It's about who we are as a society. It's about what kind of country we want to be. We need direction. We need leadership, real leadership. And that starts with us, speaking out, standing up, and refusing to settle for anything less than the truth. This is our moment. Let's not waste it. Let's fight for what's right. Together, we can turn this around. Let's get to work. Sappers clear the way. Airborne all the way.